So we'll go ahead and start with the evaluation and results from the PanAmerican genetics. So for the plants that Pan Am provided, for the indoor trials, we evaluated Impatiens and Celosia, and for the outdoor trial, we evaluated Petunias, Celosia, and Dianthus. So today, for each breeder, I'll begin with the starter material and how we grew the plants. So for PanAmerican, we got seeds and plugs. So on the left, you can see some seedling trays that we grew in the greenhouse, just did direct sowing on the bench and manually irrigated them. On the right, you can see some trays that arrived in from one of the growing locations of PanAmerican Seed in Chiang Mai, Thailand. So I'll first start with highlighting Dianthus. So the Dianthus we grew was the Jolt series. We evaluated two colors, Pink Magic and Purple. Purple is a new introduction to the series in 2022. So this is one of our top performers in the trial. Something we observed is continuous flowering, very heat tolerant, nice, vibrant, long-lasting flowers, and minimal maintenance. I think it's a great option to incorporate in the landscape or even in a container grown in the outdoors, full sun and humidity. So here's a couple close-up photos. On the left is the purple, and on the right is the Pink Magic. So I think what I'll do today is highlight the purple within the series. So this is a slide we'll see throughout for each breeder. You can see photos from week 0 up until week 10. Week 0 is the week from when transplanting. So we'll put a week number and the rating. And in the bottom left box here, you can see PPP, which stands for how many plants per pot, and a couple other data points. So you can see number of days from sow to first bud, number of days from sowing to first flower, and then the overall height and width of the plant. So Dianthus Jolt for us was a nice tall plant, really nice vibrant purple flowers. And I think something that stood out to us is how long this plant lasted. So bottom photo can show you during week 15, it's still looking great. There was a little maintenance included, which was just some manual deadheading, but overall this plant lasted very long for us during the evaluation. Next, we'll move on to the Petunia. For the Petunias, we evaluated the E3 Easy Wave series. Those who may not know, the Easy Waves by PanAmerican Seed are bred for their waving capabilities, so they spread very well. This is a new series to Pan Am, and the E3 stands for Easy Efficient Evolution. So for us, this was a very efficient crop. From sowing to first bud was about 8 weeks, and then about 10 weeks for flower. So within this series, we evaluated 7 colors. And for us, out of the 7 colors, the top performer was the E3 Easy Wave Blue. So here's a nice photo on the right of the series and all the colors we evaluated. Here's a nice photo in the flower dome. This was during our Chihuly glass exhibition a couple months ago. The planter bowl right in front of us is a couple of the colors in the E3 Easy Wave series. And this was showcased during a visit we had in August by the Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris. And here's another close-up of all the colors evaluated. Here in front, on the bottom of the screen is the blue, which we thought was one of the top performers within the series. All right, and so like I showed you the slides earlier, this is what we'll be seeing throughout the different breeders. So you can see week 0 to week week 10, how the plants performed. Something I'd like to highlight here is petunias were more of a high maintenance crop for us. So by week 6, these plants really flourished, lots of flowers. By week 8, we saw some decline. And then week 10, I'll tell a little bit more about that story later on. But I think up until week 6, the plants were quite beautiful, lots of flowers, and really tolerated the high heat, lots of sun and humidity and the outdoor conditions. Here's a nice close-up. These were also suitable for hanging baskets for us. This is a photo inside the glass house. So like I mentioned earlier, petunias are great plants, but for us, they require maintenance. So something we saw here on the photo on the left is that we needed to scout the plants regularly. The African land snails that we see pretty often in Singapore really enjoyed the petunias. This is some plant, if you're growing it outdoors, we suggest you keep the plants well watered. You'll see some wilting, they'll bounce right back. And then the photo on the right just shows you need to provide extra nutrients for these high feeding plants. All right, so here's a story that we'd like to tell from the petunias. Something I mentioned earlier was the peak performance, the peak flowering period of the petunias for us was during week 6. Week 8, they started to decline. Week 10, we decided we cut back the plants. We added some more slow release fertilizer, and then we also supplemented with a liquid fertilizer at 400 parts per million nitrogen. So we applied this weekly. By week 12, the plants flushed back out. Week 13, they looked excellent. So I think this is a great story to tell, that you can grow petunias outside in a tropical, humid, hot climate like Singapore, but they do require a little bit more maintenance. And something I'd like to highlight that I didn't already is that these did flower under our day neutral conditions. All right, so now we'll move on to Celosia. This is the Foliage Sol series. So within the series, we evaluated 2 cultivars, Gecko Green and Lizard Leaf. PanAm asked us to evaluate both indoors and outdoors. And these have a very nice, attractive bicolor foliage that you can see on the photos on the right. Late flowering, and for us, it performed better indoors. So here's a good photo just to show you how different these plants performed indoor versus outdoors. On the left, you can see the plants that were grown indoors, and on the right, you see the plants that were grown outdoors. These are both taken during week 12. And for us, these plants didn't enjoy the high heat, humidity, and maybe extra light that they received outdoors. But the plants on the right, grown indoors, these were a staff favorite here at GB. They really enjoyed the foliage. All right, now we'll move on to the Impatiens Beacon series. In this series, we evaluated 7 colors. You can see the photos on the right. These were evaluated indoors inside the glass house. These are bred to be resistant to the Impatiens downy mildew. I personally don't see downy mildew here in the glass house in Singapore, but you may be seeing downy mildew in your operations. I just personally don't. So within the series, the Beacon Coral was a staff favorite, and I'll highlight some photos of that in a bit. Very long-lasting plants, continuous flowering, suitable in hanging baskets. And for Gardens by the Bay, we use Impatiens quite frequently, and the floral displays as ground cover. Here's a nice photo of the Beacon series and a hanging basket right now on display in the Flower Dome for our Tulip Mania Festival. And here's a couple photos of another series within PanAm, also Impatiens, used as ground cover in our annual cherry blossom display. I'm just going to highlight the coral color in particular. So bottom photo shows you week 8, we rated this a 5. Well, let's go up to the top of the slide. Week 12, still rated 5. What I'd like to highlight here is continuous flowering, very vigorous, and big impact with a lot of color. And something else we'd like to mention here. So after the trial indoors, we decided to cut back the Impatiens and put them outdoors. So something I'll touch out on later in a couple other breeder presentations is that we did trial some Impatiens outdoors. So these plants we're looking at here, they were once inside the glass house. We cut them back, we supplemented with some additional fertilizer. And these photos were taken just yesterday. They've been outside for about 3 weeks. So they flushed out in the hot, humid environment. They are under partial shade, but we're excited to see if these can survive outdoors. All right, and that is the end of the PanAm presentation. So now I'm going to stop sharing and pass it over to Jane.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, firstly, thank you very much, Carly, for the great trial updates. And let me just start by introducing myself. My name is Jane. I am the Sales and Marketing Manager for PanAmerican Seed. I am based in Chiang Mai, Thailand. And I'm very excited to be here today, and I'm glad to be participating in this cultivar trial initiative with Gardens by the Bay. So what I'm going to be talking about today is the best varieties for tropical sun. So you saw a couple of products that we put in the trial, and I will talk a little bit more about that, such as the Wave brand story and the Beacon Impatiens breeding story. And then I'm also going to talk about some other crops which I think are suitable to be grown in hot and humid climates such as that in Southeast Asia. Okay, here we go. Okay, so first up, Wave Petunia. As Carly mentioned, Wave Petunia is basically our flagship brand. Wave is the first authentic trailing petunia in the market. It's a brand that's been around since 1995. So for the last 26 years now, Wave Petunias have been inspiring gardeners everywhere, all over the world. And not just E3 Easy Wave, but we actually have an entire family of Wave branded petunias. So what are the differences, right? So all these waves share a common characteristic, which is they trail, but each one has a slightly different trait that might be suitable for different garden applications. So first up, shockwave petunias. The characteristic for these are it has small flowers, but lots of them. So small flowers, the benefit is that they tend to bounce back faster if they are in a rainy situation. And they're also nice and compact, and it has a cute form. Next, as we saw in the trial, there's E3 Easy Wave. As Carly mentioned, E3 stands for efficient, early, and evolution. I'll talk a little bit more about those points. So E3 is a little bit more, is a larger plant than shockwave, but it's also more controlled, so it's a little bit more compact. Next is Easy Wave, which is probably the number one in the Wave brands. Easy Wave petunias also have large flowers, vibrant colors, grow well in landscapes and containers. Next is Tidal Wave, which is kind of like the big brother of the family. They are very tall, very vigorous petunia plants. They're great for filling up large spaces. So if you have like a large garden or a big area that you need to fill up quickly with petunias, then Tidal Wave might be the answer. And finally, the original Wave petunias. So these are different because their habit is very prostrate. They really trail and reach out, but they do require long days, at least 12 to 14-hour days to reach its full flowering potential. Okay, so that's what we have in the Wave Petunia family. So a little bit more about E3 Easy Wave. Like we mentioned, we just call them E3 for short. So I think it's really important to highlight that the earliness of this product, it flowers under 10 hours or less. So that's really great for climates such as around the equator, where it's day length neutral, or in Thailand and Singapore and other parts of Southeast Asia where we don't really get more than 12 hours day length. This is a product that will guarantee you flowers in our climate. It's also efficient because it doesn't, it's vigorous, but it doesn't trail as fast as the other Easy Waves in our collection. So that means it's more controllable. Growers find that they don't have to use as many growth regulators. You know, they don't have to keep moving around the plants, spacing them as often. So it really makes it for a more efficient growing experience. And finally, it's an evolution of the Wave brand because we are going to continue breeding petunias in this direction to add more colors and add more innovation to the Wave brands. So E3 Easy Wave, there are 7 colors in the collection. And this year we just introduced a formula mix, which includes all 7 colors. Okay, the next product is Beacon Impatiens. So as was mentioned earlier, Beacon Impatiens has really been bred for genetically high resistance to Impatiens downy mildew. Impatiens downy mildew is a type of downy mildew that specifically affects Impatiens walleriana. And so with the introduction of Beacon Impatiens, we're really introducing a high disease resistant product that will help the Impatiens last longer in the garden and really help growers to manage some of the disease issues they may have had in the past. So again, Beacon Impatiens has been bred to have genetically high resistance to Impatiens downy mildew, but they are also more vigorous and are more robust than the other Impatiens that we might have in our portfolio. But it's also still easy to grow. You know, you don't have to do anything extra just because it's a new variety. And with that in mind, we also have a campaign for Beacon Impatiens where a portion of global sales of Beacon Impatiens will be donated to some lesser known charitable causes. For example, last year we donated to the Osteoporosis Imperfecta charity, which is a bone disease. And then this year we're going to donate some proceeds to pulmonary fibrosis charities. So what makes Beacon Impatiens special? It's basically because we have our team of breeders in the United States and in Holland, who's worked together with a team of pathologists at the Ball Helix Lab to really inoculate and study and select all of the hybrids that we've made at an early age. As you can see here, you know, we've been selecting plants since they were in the plug stage to see which one can have that high resistance at the plug stage. And then we did multiple trials indoors and outdoors. As you can see in the middle pictures here, there are trials done in packs in the greenhouse. And then we also put some of the plants out in our field demonstrations outdoors to see what would happen like in natural conditions. And from all of this rigorous trialing and testing and selection, that's how we came about with Beacon Impatiens. And I have a video here that I'd like to share with you too. Okay. So this video is a time lapse of one of our trials. This is in the United States. So on the left, you can see is Impatiens. It's Super Elfin is one of our commercial varieties. And on the right is Beacon. So over time, as the season changes from June to September, you can see that, you know, on the right, Beacon Impatiens is continuously growing, continuously flowering. Well, on the left here, the Super Elfin is, you know, it's dying, it's succumbing to disease. But on the right, the Beacon Impatiens is still going strong. And this is all taken within a 4-month period from June to September in the United States. Okay. So Beacon Impatiens, we have 7 popular colors and we will have more coming. This year, we also developed several mixes. So each mix has, you know, various formulations of the 7 colors, but each mix is kind of guaranteed to flower within 3 to 4 days of each other. So you'll get a nice even flowering mix. Okay, so now moving on. Dianthus Jolt, as Carly mentioned, this is a product that has been specifically bred to be heat tolerant. It is an interspecific Dianthus. So if you're looking for a product that is long lasting in the sun, loves to be outdoors in a sunny landscape, look no further, just stick with Dianthus Jolt, right? They're very durable. They have very few disease issues, you know, and they like to stay out in the sunny climate. They tolerate drought quite well. You know, they don't have to be constantly maintained. And the flower buds, the flower heads, they produce flower constantly throughout the season. So other than the purple and the pink magic that was mentioned in the trial, we also have a cherry and a pink color. And the pink magic, I just wanted to touch on again because it's a really special color. We call it pink magic because the flower color changes as the plant grows, right? So it will start off as a white, and then it will turn pink, and then it will turn brighter pink and rose. So in one plant, you'll get multiple colors, and that's really a unique characteristic for the Dianthus Jolt. Okay, now I'm going to be talking about some plants that were not in the trial, but are also very suitable for tropical sun landscape use. So here we have Serena angelonia. It's an angelonia from seed. It's a very vigorous, well-branched plant that fills up gardens and landscapes. It has, it's probably about 40 to 50 centimeters tall. And it's a product that's really suitable for, mass plantings, flower fields, any of those kind of big area applications. They don't require a lot of water or maintenance, and they do really well in sunny landscapes. So for Serena, we have 4 colors: blue, purple, rose, and white, and 2 mixes. We also have another angelonia called Serenita, which is kind of like the little sister of Serena. It has all the great attributes of Serena, meaning it has vibrant colors, well-branched, drought tolerance, loves heat, but it's just a little bit more compact, maybe about 20% shorter than Serena. Serenita has, we have 7 colors here and 1 mix. And here I just want to demonstrate to you what the difference is between these 2 series, right? So on the left, Serena Rose, you can see the branches are a lot taller, while on the right, Serenita Rose, it's a little bit more compact, but both of these have, a lot of branches and very vibrant colors. And the nice thing about it is that there's flowers along the entire stem of the branch. So you don't end up with like flowers only on the top and no flowers underneath. There's flowers all along the entire branch. So that gives a really nice garden appeal. Okay, next, another popular crop is African marigolds. We have an intermediate type African marigold called Marble 2. We call it intermediate because it can grow to be about maybe what we call a knee high, 40 to maybe 50 centimeters tall. It's not so compact as our other African marigold series that we typically see in the garden. This one is a little bit taller. And Marble 2 series is probably our most day length neutral African marigold, right? It's very uniform. It has pretty uniform flowering and pretty uniform growing. And up close here, we have 3 colors and a mix. And I just like to mention that we really do try to focus on the flower quality for African marigolds. We look for the nice round petals and round flower shape, because this is something that really makes the African marigolds more attractive. And we find that as the flower shapes are more round, they tend to are more resistant to rain and humidity. The water doesn't get stuck inside the petals and it leads to rot and things like that.
Jane, 1 more minute.
All right, almost done. So finally here, another product that I'd like to introduce is the Zinnia zestes. So this is the Zinnia elegans type. This is also a very popular plant to be grown in Southeast Asia, around the region. Zesty features fully double flowers, and they're really large flowers too, and they are pollinator friendly. So for zesty, we have 5 colors and a mix, and we are introducing 2 new colors this year, which is the orange and the yellow, which are popular colors around the region. And Okay, so actually that's all I wanted to say. But before I go, I just wanted to mention that, for PanAmerican Seed, you can always contact us on our websites, www.panamseed.com. All of our product information is there. To find out more information about Beacon Impatiens and what charities we support, you can go to www.beaconimpatiens.com. And finally, please try to connect with us on social media. Just search for PanAmerican Seed on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitter. We're happy to see people's feedbacks on those channels, and we're happy to interact with all of our customers there. Yes. So thank you very much. That's it for me today.